Hello everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Yuval Bloomberg and I'm the owner of aboutjewishpeople.com and of course this YouTube channel. So this video is about the ongoing saga of the election in Israel. We started the saga on April 9, 2019, and then since then we had 3 elections. And now, just news from the last week, we are going to have another election in March 2021. So until April 2019, the situation in Israel was relatively stable. What happened since then that made Israel a political system such unstable, which requires it to go to election time after time? The first three times since 2019 were one after one with just few months difference. This one we had a government for a short time and the government failed. The government fell recently in last week, and we are going to have another election. So the picture is a bit complicated. I'll try to simplify it for you. Stick with me till the end if you want to understand what's going on in Israel and why it's so complicated. I'm not going too deep into the nitty-gritty of the things because it's really not interesting for people who are not from Israel, and even for people from Israel, I think most of them or a lot of them got tired of this. But assuming you are someone from the outside just trying to figure out what's going on there, why they're having election every few months, I'll try to simplify the picture for you, make you understand the complicated political situation in Israel. So simplifying the political situation, Israel, just to make it simple, it's not like this, but just to make it simple, the Israeli political map is divided to, let's say, right, left, and Arabs. Now, the Arabs usually going with the left. The left usually contain parties that some of them claim to be center or pretending to be right in order to gain more votes, but everyone knows they are left. And the right. And the right, it's like main big party is the Likud, and it's including a party of Russians, including two parties of ultra-Orthodox people, and what we call national religious people. But this is like just general rough deviation of the political map. So what happened since 2019 that everything went out of track and Israel became like a country with election every few months? Till 2019 there was some kind of order. It was clear who is in the left, who is in the right, and once we have election it was clear who is the one that get the most of the votes in the parliament. In Israel you need to have 61 votes in the parliament in order to establish the government. 61 out of 120, this is a majority. Now in April 2019, one of the main players in the right wing, replaced his skin, changed his position. He didn't become left, but he became someone, though before the election, he declared that he is going only with Benjamin Netanyahu, and this was something which was natural. No one was wondering about this because he was right-wing since the first day in the politics. After the election, for some reasons which are not clear till today, but this was not the only surprise, or it was not the only main event of this election. On January 2019, a new player established. The name was Blue and White. Blue and White was like a synthetic party. It was not a party that was existed before. It was not a party with like a clear ideology. The main ideology of this party was anti-Bibi. In Israel, we have a name for this trend. We call it Rak Lo Bibi, meaning only not Bibi. People who have no political agenda, and the main one and the only one actually is just to remove Benjamin Netanyahu from the government. And this product was created like you are creating any other product today into the market. It was created in an advertisement office. Ridiculous how it sounds. People were elected to this party according to their chances to bring more voters. Everything was like engineered, synthetic. Nothing was real. It was really like a plastic. I mean, most of the people who know Israel politics anticipated, they could predict that this ridiculous party will not survive. Because it didn't have what it takes in order to be a political party. But it succeeded for some time and almost got into the government. Anyway, the position in the head of this party, the former commander, Benny Gantz, he was someone completely incompetent, someone that it was clear he doesn't have anything that it takes to be Israel prime minister. He had pathetic interviews in TV. He couldn't even talk one sentence or two sentences without embarrassing himself. He really became like a real joke, this guy. But he was the candidate of the media. He was the candidate of the legal system, of course, the informal candidate. He was the candidate of the elite power of Israel. He looked impressive, very tall, above 190, blue eyes, someone like you want to trust. And he managed to achieve significant success. I mean, they achieved the result. I'm not going to get into the exact results, but it was like a big party, almost like the Likud, or a bit bigger than that, something like this. So this was a big change in the Israeli political map. It was clear that they are positioning a real threat to the continuance of Benjamin Netanyahu position as prime minister. Nevertheless, we had to go to another election. In this another election, the basic situation didn't change much. I mean, the same players managed to achieve, I would say, similar results. I don't want to say Likud achieved better results, but it's not really interesting because we are talking now about the principle. The complication remains in its place. The same player, Avigdor Lieberman, still refused to go into a right-wing government, and the others couldn't achieve their majority. One of the obstacles was they couldn't go with what called the joint list. This is the Arabic list. The Arabic list consisted of different four parties, Arabic parties. And they ran together in order to achieve the best results from their point of view. And they achieved great results. I don't remember if it was 15 or 16 seats in the parliament. The only problem with these guys is that almost all of them can be caught in YouTube or in other platforms when they are supporting terror or terrorists. This is something that is very difficult to process for most of the Israelis, even for a big part of the Israelis that are sitting, positioning themselves in the left, on the left side of the Israeli political map. Really, it's very difficult to imagine yourself sitting with someone who is supporting a terror organization in a government that has to decide or to take decision to, for example, to react to missiles from Gaza Strip. These guys, they are supporting Hamas, or supporting Hezbollah. So it's not. Of course, the Arab voters in Israel, they are completely legitimate. But what is not legitimate in the eyes of most of the Israelis is to have in the government people who want to destroy Israel, people who support terror organizations, people who support terrorists to murder Jews. So this is something which is not legitimate for most of the Israelis, in the eyes of most of the Israelis. So this was a bit, a big obstacle for a blue and white. They couldn't go with this party. And actually, they didn't have the option yet, but this was like without their 15 seats, they didn't have any visibility, any option to establish a government. So this was how we had to go into a third election. So in the third election, the situation didn't change much. It was almost the same. Likud party achieved very good results, but still the right wing missed these 8 seats or 7-8 seats of this political player, Avigdor Lieberman, who still insisted not to sit with Netanyahu. Now it's already like an obsession. It became like his main biggest ever political mission since he got into the politics 20 or 30 years ago. And something had to happen. Actually, Blue and White, they had the majority to establish government if they wanted, but with the joint list, the Arabic joint list. They had 61 or 62 seats in the parliament. Why they haven't done that? Because they promised before the election, one important thing I forgot to mention, that on the cockpit of this party, there were 3 leaders. 3 of them were the Israeli army commander, the chief army commander of Israel. So all 3 of them, they made promise in their own name that they are not going to sit with this party. Why they did that? Because they wanted to convince a lot of Israelis that were, I would say, maybe a position between the left and right. They wanted to convince them to join their party. So if you promise something like this, you may gain 1 more mandate, 2 more mandates, something that may help you to achieve the ability to build the government. After the elections, the media completely supported them to break the promise they made, and they started to talk about it by themselves, to break the promise. And they said they must break the promise, otherwise they don't have the option to build the government. But they had few parliament members that refused to this, and they decided and declared, actually 3, that they are not going to participate in this, and they are not going to do it, and they are not going to agree and to support this. So once they had 3 parliament members that said that, they lost the majority, the majority to build. So they had no choice. So again, we were in like a sort of limbo. Benjamin Netanyahu didn't have the 61, and they didn't have the 61 as well, because there were 3 floating members. Now the right wing was completely went like a block, 58 members, and they couldn't break it. So Benny Gantz, the head of Blue and White, decided to break the ally inside his party and to join Benjamin Netanyahu government. I don't know if it was a brave act or practical act, because there were a lot of talkings that if we are going into 4th election, he's not going to stay the head of this party, because after 3 failures, he cannot stay again the head of the party, and they will replace him. So maybe this was the reason that urged him to join Benjamin Netanyahu. I don't know. I don't think anyone exactly know. Maybe one day he will say it by himself. But he decided to do that. So the party was broken into 2 parts. The part that didn't go with Benjamin Netanyahu and the part that did join. He got the promise to become the next prime minister, what made many people worried, because he was, as I said, a complete incompetence for this. No one trusts him. He doesn't look like the right person to be in this position. And Israel is a very complicated country. But there was another player all along this story. The legal system of Israel, which I'll dedicate another video only for them, which are chasing Benjamin Netanyahu and conducting a legal war against him, trying to remove him from the government, from his role as well. They did a lot of acts during these 3 elections, trying to convince the public in Israel not to vote to Benjamin Netanyahu, like making him building his image as a very corrupt leader, which is a complete incorrect regarding Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm not going to get into this now because this is definitely a different topic. But this was like their game. Before any election, out of the three, something happened that related to this process against Benjamin Netanyahu. And the goal of this action was to convince the Israeli public that something is wrong with Benjamin Netanyahu and push more people not to vote for him. Anyway, Benny Gantz decided to go with Benjamin Netanyahu and another government was built. But this was probably the worst government of Israel ever. It was built on a complete mistrust between the sides. It was built of like a government within a government. It called a paritetic government, meaning the right wing had much more seats in this government, but still in the whole structure of this majority in the parliament. Rather than this, because they broke into, they got only 15 or 16 or 17 seats, something like this. But still they got similar position inside the government. They got exactly the same number of ministers, so they had the same number of fingers for votes and stuff like this. So it was very difficult to manage this government. Actually, most of the people, I think, in Israel wanted this government to dismantle. But this government had significant achievements, actually not this government, but Benjamin Netanyahu. During this time of the government, Benjamin Netanyahu managed to sign 3 or 4 peace agreements with Dubai, Bahrain, Sudan, and recently Morocco. All happened in a very short time, and there is more coming. And there is one more thing which happened, and it's very important to understand in this story. It's, of course, the corona, the COVID-19, which was another player in this event. The corona was one of Benny Gantz's biggest excuses why he has to go into a government with Benjamin Netanyahu and break his promise to his voters not to join Benjamin Netanyahu. But he said this is an emergency situation, emergency time. We have to unite together and to help each other, to help all of us to win the corona and to take over the situation. Actually, to just disturb Benjamin Netanyahu to manage the situation, they put obstacles all the way. They really didn't help. The situation was managed before this government, when only Benjamin Netanyahu that was managed much better. Nevertheless, it was still managed good in comparison with other states, with a lot of countries in the world. It still managed good, but they definitely didn't help for that. Actually, it was sometimes we had the feeling that they are trying to disturb in order to show that Benjamin Netanyahu cannot do a good job. So this government managed to survive 5-6 months, something like this. It was really bad time in terms of governance, or it was a ridiculous government. And but still we have Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm not hiding behind anything. I'm one of his great fans. I think he's one of the greatest leaders Israel had in the modern times, maybe the greatest of all of them. But it was the government was ridiculous. It was like there is a big consensus about this in Israel. Everyone I think most of the people think like this. I guess that Benjamin Netanyahu think the same, but he had his own reasons why he wants to hold his government, and it's okay. I mean, we are not pretending to understand everything that's happening, but the game is over. Last week, and now we are going to a new election in March 21. So a few words about the processes, the things that are happening in Israel that lead us to this situation, and then try to predict who is going to win in 2021. First, there is a demographic change in Israel. Religious making a lot of kids, 7, 8, 9 for each family. Actually, secular people are making a lot of kids as well. The average in Israel, I think, is 3.1 for women. And you can find a lot of secular families in Israel with 4 kids. It's not something rare. Actually, it's something very common to find, to see families like this. Israelis love kids, so we have a lot of them. But still, the demography of the religious people, much stronger. and maybe double than the secular. So naturally, they are getting more and more voters. We have people who immigrate to Israel from France, from the United States, from Russia, most of them giving their votes to the right-wing parties. So this is like from the demographic point of view. From tradition point of view, most of the Jews define themselves as traditional in Israel. So they not religious, but traditional. And once you're traditional, you're most likely to go with the right wing, most likely, because of different reasons. Again, I don't want to go to this in this video, but this is, take it as a fact. There is another process that's happening in Israel. This is, I would say, the war against Benjamin Netanyahu, which position threat to the continuous of the governance of, I would say, the deep state of Israel. Israel has a very strong media and Supreme Court that completely identified itself with the left wing, sometimes even with the radical left wing. Benjamin Netanyahu, the ultimate winner of elections in Israel, positioning a threat for the left wing, and became like an obstacle that can't be removed because of his huge support to him in Israel. And he's like sitting there like for them like a demon that must be removed, that must be won, and no matter what needs to be done in order to remove Benjamin Netanyahu, it needs to be done. And seriously, the situation it sometimes seems to be very dangerous, because you can find people here or calling for violence, or calling for people from the left wing these days, calling for violence, or creating different exhibition that imply for violence against Benjamin Netanyahu. Really became, I would say, illness, obsession, something complete crazy, the need to remove Benjamin Netanyahu. And not because of failures, because he is extremely successful from any point of view. From any point you are looking on the achievements of the Israeli economy, the corona treatment. I'm not talking about what the newspaper is saying here. I'm talking about how Israel is being measured by organizations out of Israel. The economical situation, the corona management, everything by any parameter. Seriously, I'm not even the peace agreements that complete an amazing achievement done only because of Benjamin Netanyahu and his relations with Trump, and of course the courage of the Arabic leaders. But this is something that couldn't have been achieved by the left wing. Definitely could not have been achieved because of their different ideology and different way of seeing things. So this is something which this is something which stand in the middle of all of these elections. So basically, I think I mentioned the most important things that on the agenda. Now, who is going to win the coming elections? You know, before each election, everyone said, not everyone, actually, the media said, now this is the end of Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu now is going to go down from the stage. Benjamin Netanyahu ended his role. It's like always repeat itself. I heard it so many times. And he's always winning. And he's always managing, I would say many people call him a magician, really, what he's doing in the Israeli political system, it's really amazing in terms of achievements. I'm not talking about in terms of, I'm not judging each of his actions, but I'm talking in terms of achievements of what he is doing here. So the first, I think, biggest achievement, he dismantled Blue and White Party. Only 1 year ago, Blue and White Party seems like a party that's going to win this election, and being the first party in the last 10 years that managed to remove Benjamin Netanyahu from being a prime minister. And 1 year after, Blue and White dismantling. I mean, this party is not existing anymore. It exists formally, but today in the election it has only 4 seats in the parliament. In the survey to the election, it has only 4 seats in the parliament. This is like the threshold. If you're less than that, you cannot get into the parliament, even if you have 3. So I believe that Benny Gantz will retire. I mean, he's not, this is what I believe. And now the media is trying, after they managed to hide a lot of information, very embarrassing information about him 1 year ago. Now they're starting to expose it. Why? Because the agenda changed. 1 year ago, he was the Messiah, and now he is disturbing. So now they are now trying to remove him from the race because he is now disturbing, and they want to support new political parties. That their main agenda, you can guess, remove Benjamin Netanyahu. And this is how the political map of Israel looks like. We have the right wing with the agenda about the economy, about how to do peace with the Arabs, about how to treat the tradition. And we have we have the way we see life. And on the other side, we have a bunch of parties. And their agenda is very simple and very easy. Rak lo Bibi. I mean, remove Bibi. We don't want Bibi. This is became obsession, serious obsession in Israel for many people, not to have Bibi again as prime minister. So like I said, I assume that Benny Gantz will not remain in the race. His situation in the survey, in the polls now is very bad. And it's like this is another achievement of Benjamin Netanyahu. This party disappeared in a year, and it's like unsuccessful product. So we have few more products like this. There is an option that the right wing that support the parties that support Benjamin Netanyahu will not achieve the 61. There is an option. This is definitely a realistic option. Actually, I think if I have to gamble, this is the most realistic option. Now the question is, what will do the other parties? Because each of these parties, led by another, I would say, sort of egomaniac, someone that sees himself as the only candidate. So the big question, if this, I would say there are right now about 3 like this. If each one of them will be able to give up for the other and will let him lead, I don't know. It's a very difficult question. I'm not sure it's going to happen. I think low chances. Now, will they all go together with the joint list? I don't know. Maybe very difficult. They may do it because if they, the situation, the obsession of anti-Bibi is so strong, so it might happen. If I have to guess, still I would give most chances to Netanyahu because there is nothing that unifying really the other side beside the willing to remove Bibi, and it's very strong, but I'm not sure it will be strong enough. Even if they manage to establish a government, I believe that it will fall quickly, and then we will have another elections. So, by the way, there is another move of Benjamin Netanyahu with the Arabs in Israel. Very surprisingly, there is a new ally between Benjamin Netanyahu and one of the Islamic leaders of the Arabic Party. I told you this joint list composed of 4 different parties. So Benjamin Netanyahu and this Arabic leader, they have sort of ally between them, very surprisingly. And if this guy decides that he wants to join Benjamin Netanyahu government, this will change the map. And right now, the voices is making it's like this. He said that he wants to take care of his own people, something which sounds really very natural, make a lot of sense. And this is what we want. This is what we're expecting them to take care of themselves. This is what we expect from the representative in the parliament, to take care of themselves and not to try to manage the Palestinian war from the Israeli parliament. So this is how it sounds like, and I don't know where it's going to lead us. So I would say right now we are in a sort of a limbo. I don't know if it's going to over in the next election. I hope so. But it depends a lot on a few things. So first of all, the corona situation. The vaccination is going now very quickly. I mean, a lot of people are getting the vaccines these days. Now we have already more than 200,000 people with vaccines, and we are a country of 9 million people. So Israel now is number one country in terms of vaccination speed. United States, it's another consideration. Situation is very unclear, very unstable. We are not far from January 6th, where the new president of the United States should be declared. Now, they are saying it's Joe Biden. I don't know. We are still waiting to see what's going to happen. Anyway, whether it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump and the consequences, who knows? I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen there? But U.S. always has an effect on Israel this way or another. More peace agreements. There is another peace agreement coming with a big country. People say here it might be Indonesia, I don't know. But this is something really, it's like Benjamin Netanyahu is changing the history in front of our eyes. He's changing the whole course of history in front of our eyes. This is something we never saw it coming, not in this way. It's a huge achievement of Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump, which was the greatest president ever for Israel, no doubt about it. I think he was the greatest for the US as well, but this is another discussion. Something else, it's the economical situation. Though the economical situation, actually it's right now it's pretty well, but we have a lot of, due to the corona, we have a lot of unemployment, high rate of unemployment. Before the corona, we had almost zero unemployment. Now we have, I believe it's about 10%, something like this, 700,000 or 500,000, I don't know what is the number. This is another kind of propaganda in this election. Of course, those who are anti-Bibi trying to blow the number and make them much bigger than they really are, but still no doubt that we have a lot of unemployment now due to the corona situation, and a lot of things that cannot happen now. Tourism, shows, stuff like this, restaurants, a lot of things that got into difficulties because of the corona. So this will be another factor. And one more thing, it's information about politicians. Now the new messiah of the anti-Bibi camp, of the anti-Bibi political camp, is a guy named Gideon Sa'ar, the anti-charisma type of leader, but he became a hero because he's going anti-Bibi. He came out of the Likud. He went out of the Likud 1 week ago, pulled out a few more parliament members with him, and he's now the hero because according to polls, he has the biggest chance to win Benjamin Netanyahu. But this guy, at least according to rumors and according to things that are being reported unofficially, he has a lot to hide. So it's a question. And Benny Gantz had a lot to hide by himself, but the media managed to keep it, managed to hide it during the election, and actually attacked anyone who tried to expose it. These days, they are doing it by themselves, exposing all the embarrassing information about Benny Gantz. In purpose, they are doing it in order to make him move away and enable the new hero, the new messiah, to come instead of him. And it's exactly the same way of behavior, and now they are trying to hide what this guy has to hide by himself. So they are helping him. This is the situation right now, and the question is if something will come out before the election and will bury him in terms of political future, political leader. So these are the main things that need to be considered, have a biggest effect on the election, unless of course we will have some unexpected event that no one can expect now. So this is the situation in Israel. I don't know if I made it. I tried to make it a bit simpler for you. Please let me know if you have more questions. Please write me comments. If you want me to add more about this topic, if you want me to focus on one of the topics here, please write to me. I will do that happily. I have a deep understanding about the political map of Israel. I will do it happily, explain about whatever you want. Just write to me below in the comments. In addition, don't forget to like and to subscribe to my channel. I will be happy to see you watching more of my videos, asking more questions or commenting or having any involvement you want. This will be my salary for this effort to creating these videos. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.